everybody, it's Pat Jones, and I'm back with another TurfZoom brought to you by our friends at Aquatrols. And today, we're staying close to home with Aquatrols, and we're going to chat with Dave Libby, who's the newest member of the Aquatrols sales team, and we're working in New England up there. Dave, how the heck are you?
I'm fantastic, Pat. Thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm confounded by why you'd want to talk to me, but I'm happy to deliver whatever message
Well, I try
I
to
have.
confound. That's my goal in life, is to confound people.
Amen.
But mostly, I think our goal here today is to educate a little about you and tell folks a little bit about your background, but also what kind of an opportunity lies ahead for you with the Aquatrols Company and with the opportunity to kind of make this transition into a new role. So, as always, I think the place to start is tell us kind of the elevator version of your background. How did you get into this crazy business? And how were you able to stay at the same club for 2 decades? Just a remarkable thing. So tell us.
Well, my name's David Libby. I was born and raised in Maine. I went to turf school. I started in the PGM program at Coastal, and found out pretty quickly that as much as I liked the people, I didn't like being, kind of trapped indoors. And so I wanted to be outdoors. And across the street from Coastal is Horry Georgetown Technical College, where I was part of my PGM. I had to take a sort of a 101 course to be able to relate to the superintendents. And honestly, Pat, it turned out that I could relate to the superintendents a heck of a lot better than I could relate to the, PGM program guys.
Yep.
So I finished up enough coursework to to leave Coastal with an associate's degree in business management, whatever that means. But and then got my turf degree at HGTC, which was fantastic. There's 100 golf courses around the college campus at the time. It was, work study and placement training almost as much as you could possibly get.
And you're and at that point, you're fighting mole cricket for life. That's actually a great culture that school has. It's really amazing.
I am a fighting. I think I still have a fighting mole cricket golf team golf shirt from a trip to Jacksonville that we took. So yeah, that's
Nice.
wow.
So where did you get your start from there?
So I went back to Maine, having 5 acres of bent grass in, on the intercoastal waterway of South Carolina. It was good training, but it's not something that I was interested in, dealing with every summer. And I figured 3 months of winter in Maine was probably easier to take than 5 months of bent grass in South Carolina. So I came back up to Maine. I worked at the Woodlands Club. I worked at the Samoset. And then I went to Prouts Neck. So went to Prouts Neck in 2002 and retired from there 2023.
Astounding. So tell us about that club, because it's a pretty special place.
It's an amazing place. Honestly, the people there are second to none. It's very old school. There's nothing fancy. And frankly, the people are what make it. And the leadership of that club was really forward thinking in my tenure there as a steward. And they allowed us to do a restoration master plan with Bruce Hepner that we did much of the work in-house, which was just an education. My entire 21 years there was an unintentional education in everything from interaction with people to interaction with government agencies and and the earth, because that was, it's a peninsula about a foot above median tide. It's a challenging situation out there.
Take a step back and talk about working with Bruce Hepner for a minute, because we were talking earlier, and Bruce just doesn't get the credit he deserves for the way he works with people and what he's accomplished. Why is working with Bruce such an education?
He's amazing in that he'll give you a concept and allow you to work within it and then come and fine tune it. And boy, I'll tell you, the nice thing about Bruce is he's transformed 100 golf courses dramatically,
Yeah.
and he doesn't want his name anywhere near it.
Right.
He doesn't, this is, a Rayner design in, the backwoods somewhere, and he doesn't want Bruce Hepner's name anywhere near it. No, we're just trying, and he's truly, comes at things from a restorative psyche.
Mm-hmm.
I like Bruce, man. He's sharp and he doesn't get any credit. And somebody, you know what? Somebody ought to interview him, Pat.
Well, yeah, perhaps
You
we'll
know,
put that on, we'll put that on the list. But what was sort of the lesson that you took away from working with him? Because he's really down to earth and really focused on the important stuff, but he's still a turf head at heart.
100%. And that was what I took from it was, aesthetic should inform the playability of a property, and not, you shouldn't have aesthetic dominate the landscape. As
Yeah.
far as cultural practices, I love the way Bruce takes a refined piece of turf and blends it almost seamlessly into the rugged natural environment, instead of it feeling like there's a cutoff.
Yeah.
Almost, it's the opposite of desert golf for me.
Yeah.
And also, Bruce, the lesson of the value of short grass and the penalty that short grass can impose on a player, is just fantastic. I loved we have two cuts of grass, greens and everything else.
Right. Yeah.
And we couldn't get to that at Prouts. They would have had my head. But that sort of working within that framework really informs the way you mow your property.
Yeah.
And then the way you mow your property informs what you need to do to keep those surfaces alive.
Yeah.
Especially with older golf courses. We were 1924, and so we had horns in the back of our greens that we took to greens height. I mean, my membership was so patient with us because it was not easy. It was not
Really,
easy. So,
really remarkable. Well, I'm glad you have great memories from there. But
oh,
now you have this opportunity to, as I like to do periodically, reinvent yourself, and that's a pretty cool thing. You've been at this for a month, and in this process, what have you learned so far about making this transition from being a day-to-day grass grower to being somebody who's supporting the day-to-day grass growers?
well, as far as the transition, the Aquatrols Company has been unbelievable. I cannot believe how many things have a place and how many things are in their place. It seems like every time I have a question about anything, onboarding or sales or anything, it's in the next sentence before I can even get it to my lips, with whoever I'm talking to, or it's on the next slide in the slide deck. So they're sharp, and it's, I felt like I was a power user of their products until I got access to all the information they have on their products. And now it's pretty obvious how much I have to learn, and it's exciting.
Give me an example of that, because so what had you been using, and then what have you kind of learned about the innards of those products ever since?
Well, honestly, my expertise was really with the precision line.
Right.
And to see the transition and the combination of the Aquatrols and I'm sorry that I keep looking down, Pat. I talk with my hands, so I have to
You're
look
doing
at
good. You're doing great.
nonetheless, the combination of those two lines really fills any holes I felt there were in Precision's lineup, and there weren't many. But boy, having access to that Aquatrols, not just their product line, but all the resources that come along with combining those two companies, it's remarkable. I mean, we're able to go to market faster. We're able to develop an idea and then put it into testing faster. We're able to do that in-house at our farms, which is something that I'm sure you'll talk to a number of other people about that know more about it than I do after a month. But just so many exciting things. But the transition from superintendent not to segue clumsily, but back to your original question, to transition from superintendent to sales, it's pretty natural. I feel like I've been selling programs and solutions to boards and committees um, for 3 decades, and even after, graduating turf school, you got to sell yourself to your mentors so that they pick you up. And then you got to sell yourself um, to people that are coming up behind you so that you get the cream of that crop to pass forward.
And neighbors and government and everybody else. My friend Tyler Bloom and I did a study not too long ago about employment in the golf course superintendent world and sort of skill sets and things like that. And the number one thing that superintendents said that they needed to do better to go to the next level was communications and being good at selling themselves. And I think some people are naturals at it, like you, but a lot of people have to focus and learn. But it does pay off when you move into something different, and all of a sudden your ability to share an idea, verbally or in writing or however else, becomes the way you make your living.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's, you don't want to be cynical about it by any means, but I think, we talk about moments of truth and interaction, and, you have an ability to inform any situation with your perspective in a positive way. So I think isn't that sales, in a nutshell? So what I try to do is, take what I know and then maybe enhance what, a client doesn't know, or maybe take what I don't know and enhance my knowledge with what they have.
Right.
And then combined, I think it's unstoppable.
Right. So transition wise, this has
Yes.
been a pretty comfortable thing for you. And what are you most excited about then in the next 3 or 4 months? Because you're coming into the fall and early order and all that kind of stuff, but also all the trade shows and everything else. What are you most excited about to go out and stretch your kind of spread your wings in your new role?
Well, honestly, I've had such support from the Aquatrols team regarding, my transition to sales. They want me to meet as many people as I can and sell the fact that I'm going to be with them,
Yeah.
and that we can combine our efforts to be successful together.
Yep.
And there isn't a lot of pressure on me for product movement. It's more sell Dave Libby. And
Yep.
I think that's really unique, Pat. A lot of guys will be really hounding somebody for a book of business real early. I don't feel that here. I think that what they really want is for me to establish new relationships with people that are born out of honesty and, you know, that are based in solutions thinking.
Right.
Does that
Exactly.
make sense? Like we've got an industry that is, everybody around the superintendent is identifying problems all day long. There's problem identifiers at every club. But very few of them are offering solutions, and the superintendent is thinking of solutions from the time he wakes up to the time he tries to fall asleep and shut his brain off thinking of solutions. So it's really remarkable. They're a remarkable sort of subset of our species. And I find it, what am I looking forward to most? Being around other turf geeks.
Yeah.
I really like turf geeks.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to my quote unquote sales pitches going towards people who are like-minded, who want to solve a problem.
Yeah.
And I think this is a win-win going from superintendency to this position at Aquatrols, where I'm coming to people that I was a superintendent. I know that struggle. I know waking up in the morning and John and Jeff called in sick. I get it. Or rain's coming. So I know that, and now I'm able to offer them a set of solutions that they may not have seen before, which is fantastic.
And so you knew Cascade, you knew Vivax. what have you been excited to learn about Revolution and Zipline and Dispatch and the Aqueduct Flex, which I think is the silly putty tool of all winning agents.
Well, I really like Aqueduct Flex. I think that's a great product. I love it for collars. You
Yeah.
know, in the Northeast, we really struggle with collars. A lot of guys inherit each soil greens, and the collars never got, you know, in the 80s, they never really got the attention that the greens got. And I think that's a great product for collars. Also, that Vivex 0020 product for collars is going to do the same thing, but is going to give you a little less legs. So if you're sort of psychotic about being in control of where the water is, both of those products.
And most superintendents are.
Well, rightfully so, right? Like
Right.
yeah, it's literally life or death. And I think that's what's unique about, you know, both product lines now give us the ability to let a superintendent water the way he or she wants to water, right? And then put that water where they want it in the profile and keep it there for the duration that they want it there until they want to replace. And I think that's a pretty exciting place to be in turf right now.
Yeah.
And management of turf is down to the thousandth of an inch, you know, with irrigation, and rightfully so. I mean, water's a precious commodity.
Yeah.
I represent a
Absolutely.
way to make an efficient use of that. I think that's a pretty good way to make a living.
It's a great story for golf to be able to tell. And
100%.
long term, the number one threat to the vitality of what we do is our access to water and how much we get charged for that water 20, 50 years from now or whatever else. But these products are part of the solution and they always will be. So it's just remarkable and good for you for having the opportunity to learn this entire portfolio now that really covers everything.
I think we're in a unique position to have gotten bigger as an entity, as a corporation. We've gotten bigger, yet our ability to customize solutions on an individual level has gotten stronger.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those unique situations where we have the opportunity to pick and choose exactly what a client wants.
Yeah.
And that's a really nice position. If you're coming into sales, that's a pretty great place to be.
It's pretty neat, and I think it reflects well on you. By the way, you mentioned that years and years ago you met Eric Koskinen for the first time.
Yes.
Eric, of course, was a long time with Precision Labs, and then when the two companies joined forces and became one company, Eric's now emerged as a general manager. How is it working for him? Because he seems like a pretty good human. And I enjoy being around him, but he's a turf head, right? He gets it. He was a superintendent in Massachusetts way back when. So what's working with him every day?
Eric is one of my favorite humans on the planet. And like I told you earlier, you know, when you meet somebody like that, you put it in the Rolodex in the front. And boy, working with him is unreal. I mean, the support network that he's built and the culture that he's built. You know, we always talk about having the right people on the bus and then getting those people that are on the bus in the right seats. And he's building a culture, and it's not just him, he's hiring the right people that are buying in, right?
Right.
So what we have is a combination of people who are so good at what they do and also really decent humans. You know, they all have integrity, they all want to help. And I don't feel like I'm going out into the wild to talk to, you know, distributor representatives and superintendents without any backing. I feel like I've joined the 27 Yankees. You know, it's unreal.
Oh my God, another baseball fan. What is it with you people? You New Englanders and your affection for the Yankees and the Red Sox. I just don't understand.
Well, you got to be careful there. The affection is definitely for the Red Sox. You know, the rivalry is, I think it's kind of over, but honestly, you know, we talked earlier about the diversity of my territory. You know, I go from, you know, almost from Buffalo to, you know, Eastern Maine, Rhode Island, there's a lot of diversity in the characters, but they all appreciate the same thing. We know Boston and the Met in New York, pretty diverse culture.
Yeah, for sure.
But even Yankees fans, appreciate somebody that's there to help them
Yeah.
and there to, solve a problem.
We,
And,
we were,
I,
we were talking earlier about our friend Don Hearn, who runs
yeah,
the GCSA, who's just a great person, and about the fact that the very first interaction I ever had with Don 40 years ago when I worked for GCSAA, we're having dinner, and he's just needling me, constantly needling me, and I'm like, "Why, Mr. Hearn? Why are you acting like this?" He's like, "Because I like you." And I was
yeah.
like, I learned a lot about New Englanders that night.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. The needling is in it, it's a term of endearment for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
It's a New England characteristic. If we don't like it, we just won't bother. But if we
Right,
give you a ton, it's measured, the amount of love is measured on how humiliated you feel during a dinner.
right. Exactly. That's exactly right. And how close you are to the CT Mafia in Connecticut.
Exactly.
You have to have
Exactly.
that. So talk about the organizations and your territory. Tell me the states that you're representing now.
So I have all of New England. So I have GCSA New England. I
Yep.
have the Met, so all of New York. So I have the Western New York Association. My hand is way over there. Uh, and I have the Met and Long Island. And then so it's it's a vast territory. It's diverse in people, it's diverse in soils, and it's really neat. But that said, you know, you're gonna have to edit.
Nope, we're fine.
Uh, we're talking about territory. What were we
Yeah,
talking about? I
we're
just
talking
want
about territories. So let me take a step back and I'll
sure.
so what states do you
Oh,
represent?
apologies.
Yeah, no, we'll just do it that way. So
Yeah.
what states are you focused on and what are some of the organizations that you're going to be working with every day?
Well, I have all of New York, so include Western New York Golf Course Superintendents Association. I have the Metropolitan Golf Course Superintendents Association. I have Long Island, and I
Right?
have all of New England.
Wow.
And
Wow.
those, New England. We talked about Don Hearn. I mean, the New England Association has been fantastic my entire career up here. Really have been appreciative of the seminars and the education that they've put forward. And
People don't
the other
appreciate
associations I apologize. Go ahead, Pat.
no, the Providence show, and I talk with companies that are trying to market in this industry all the time, and appreciating how good the Providence show is as important. It's easily one of the best shows, and I think as the GCSA show moves west, Providence, Carolinas, those shows become even more important. So you're going to be a busy guy there that first week in March when they have that show. You have a ton of friends there too, and
Yeah,
that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be like a homecoming for you to come back and be a part of that. But you're going to be in a booth.
it's going to be a completely different, on a different side of the desk, so to speak. But
Yeah,
boy, I love that show. It's funny you said, I my first introduction in turf school was the Carolina show,
that's right.
and then I thought this is just what trade shows in this industry are,
Yeah,
right? So it's kind of like going to your first football game and it's the Super Bowl.
right.
And then my second introduction to a regional trade show was the show in Rhode Island that New England GCSAA puts on, GCSA puts on.
Yeah,
And I'm like, oh yeah, well, this is just the Northeast version of the Carolina show.
yeah,
And the only thing that rivals either of those is GIS
yeah.
and the national. It's
There are some other pretty good regional shows around the country, but those are certainly the healthiest sort of combination of expo and education and everything else. And the cool thing about New England, I was always thought, is they've maintained. It's not just golf. It's
right.
sports fields. It's lawn care and landscaping. And I think that's great. That's really important part of the culture that we're all turf heads, and not just, one segment is more important than the other. So that's really cool. So
Sure. I mean, there's what, 44 million acres of turf grass?
yeah.
Yeah, we ought to be focused on stuff that isn't cut at a tenth of an inch every day.
Right, exactly, exactly. Well, that is, and sports turf is I think hopefully going to be an ever growing field as we get more and more suspicious about plastic grass.
Well,
As we
honestly,
should.
that's something that I'm really looking forward to learning more about. Having been so golf focused for so long, Pat, um, the needs of the turf manager in sports turf are pretty different, but a lot of the same um, thought processes can be applied.
Right.
And I think we can both learn a lot from each other. And I love the fact, like you said, that New England combines those. I've learned more at dinners with sports turf managers than I've learned in, half a dozen classes. So it's just, and not to denigrate the classes by any means, but, there's such a wealth of knowledge out there. And that's what excites me most about this new role, is traveling and seeing how other people succeed
Yeah.
and taking from that what I can. And people thus far have been tremendously generous with their time and their effort in, lending themselves to me that way.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. What do you hope if we get back together a year from now and have this conversation again? What do you hope are some of the things that you've been able to accomplish in the next year?
I hope I'm a much better interview. Uh, I hope that I'm much smarter,
Yeah.
and I hope that have developed a self-confidence in the material
Yeah.
to be able to um, pass that confidence on to my clients and my client representatives,
Yeah.
so that they're able to pass on that confidence to their clients. Honestly, what I'd like to do is have my confidence in the product line I represent carry forward to everybody that I get a chance to talk to.
Yeah. Well, that's a very achievable goal. And the one thing working with Aquatrols for in some fashion or another for decades, but particularly the last 5 years, the science is there.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
the science is just dead solid, and it's pretty simple for the most part. So it's not a hard thing to share that, and so
right.
you got that going for you, which is nice.
Also, Pat, a lot of the products that we're bringing to market, it's not just the science. I mean, there's anecdotal and visible evidence of
For sure.
efficacy, right? Like side by sides are pretty impressive. And as a superintendent, you can talk about benzene rings and I can go to sleep, or we can talk about what am I
Sure.
going to see in the field.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
boy, I'm going to probably be more responsive to what I see in the field. And we have both. And that's really valuable as well.
That's
Uh,
really cool.
and I hope, here's a closing thought. I hope when we talk a year from now, that I can tell you all about Aura Farm and what we're doing over there.
Yeah.
Because that's something I'm really, really excited to learn about, because it's a really unique opportunity for us to test and really do due diligence before we come to market. It's
There,
wonderful.
there there are a few gigantic companies that have things like Aura Farm testing grounds and things like that around the country, but nobody has anything quite like this that was purpose built. And I very much hope that you can bring a lot of folks there because it's an impressive piece of property, lysimeters everywhere, great science in place, and also real pretty and a real fun place to go have a nice evening.
Yeah, I agree. And so that's one of my hopes as well. That's one
Good,
of my hopes as well.
good for you.
It's been a
Well,
great pleasure talking to you, Pat.
we'll make a date for a year from now, and we'll
Perfect.
come back, and hopefully you're having a great time. You're not tearing your hair out, and you're enjoying life with the Aquatrols Company.
Well, so far it's been fantastic. And even drinking from a fire hose for the last month,
Yeah,
everybody's made me feel pretty comfortable, with it all. So I couldn't be happier. I've
that's
had a
good.
pretty amazing life so far, and this chapter seems like it's going to be pretty great as well. So I got no complaints, my man.
we're going to let that be the final word. Thank you
Perfect.
again for your time, Dave. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck in this brave new world you're entering. And of course, I will thank our friends at Aquatrols, the Aquatrols Company, for making all this possible. So stay tuned because there's lots more TurfZooms coming. And Dave, thanks again.
Thank you, Pat.